Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Amazon SageMaker for Industries. Um, we'll get started within a minute. Before that, I wanted to introduce myself, and then we have two guests, and they will introduce themselves. My name is Raghav Sodabattina. I'm a principal solutions architect based out of Boston. I've been with AWS 5.5 years. My area of focus is data and the AI. With me, there are two colleagues. Craig, you wanted to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Craig Jordan. I'm a principal solutions architect with AWS, supporting education in the US. And my responsibilities are to support AI, data, and analytics workloads for customers across the country. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Craig. Abhilash, you wanted to introduce yourself?
Sure, Raghav. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're joining. I'm Abhilash. I'm a senior specialist solutions architect here at AWS. I'm focused on purely data and analytics. I've been with AWS for close to 5 years, and I cover edtechs and GovTechs.
Thank you, Abhilash. Um, Today's session is transforming student engagement with Amazon SageMaker. And we wanted to talk about next generation of Amazon SageMaker, how you can build a solution around to improve the student engagement experience. So the way we are going to do this session is like a three section. First section, we are going to talk about a little bit more about the business problem. Business problem here is how to improve student engagement experience. And then second section, we will in the first section we'll talk about the business problem and the solution. And then the second section, we are going to show the live demo to address the business problem so that you can see everything is working together. And then third, right at the end, right, we will keep some time for where you can post your questions in the chat so that we will answer those questions. Throughout this session, if you have any questions, please post your questions in the chat. With this, I will turn on to the Craig to talk about what is the business problem, how we are going to address the business problem by using Amazon SageMaker for improving the student engagement experience.
Sounds great. Thank you, Raghav. It's great to be here. So as a principal architect in the US, I get to work with customers across the country, and it's really fun to see how they're starting to use AI and ML more than just data analytics for their student institutional success. And so we like to sort of frame our conversation today in light of the way we here at AWS think about supporting our customers in higher education. We think about it in terms of these 5 broad missions. So admissions and enrollment is about students finding the right institution for themselves, or for institutions recruiting the right students for their institution. So it's everything from outbound marketing to responding to requests for information. It's campus visits, interactions with faculty and admissions teams, attendance at events, participation in pre-college enrichment opportunities, making admissions offers and financial aid packages, and submitting deposits and intents to enroll. So it's a broad category. Teaching and learning is all about helping a student who has decided to come to finish to the successful outcome that they came for. So it's knowledge and skills, of course, but it's also for the purpose of achieving a position in a desired career. So it's opportunities inside the classroom and outside the classroom, professional and social interactions, career readiness and placement, as well as the academics and learning the materials. Alumni advancement and athletics is about the others that surround the institution and their interests. Perhaps they're fans and athletics matters to them, or they're donors and they have areas of interest that they want to support, or they're a former student and there's an affinity and they want the opportunity to continue to be connected to the university, offer their expertise back, and continue their education. Campus operations is about internal processes, efficiency, and productivity. And as you can imagine, right now, there's a great emphasis on using data and artificial intelligence to improve that in every way possible to do more with less. And institutional effectiveness is about the effectiveness of the institution accomplishing its goals for the broader community in which it exists. So graduating students on time and into the workforce. So those are the categories. And every one of these areas is supported by more data than you can imagine. So this picture gives a sense for the kind of data that supports them. But it's not just rows and columns in a database. It's behaviors, it's events, it's documents, both static and dynamic. And more, it's all kinds of rich media like promotional videos and lecture videos, virtual campus tours, and the like. Unfortunately, though, historically, a great deal of that data has not been made use of. And one of the things we'd like to show you today when Ablash walks you through the demo of Unified Studio is the ability for SageMaker to bring a lot more of that information into the fold and allow the people who are responsible with solving problems for students to make use of that information effectively. So we're going to focus on the teaching and learning mission and the particular problem we're going to explore solving is supporting the academic advisors. So as you can imagine, if you're not an academic advisor, you can guess from their title, they're responsible for helping with course registration and helping a student pick their path forward. But more and more, they are becoming the hub for a full range of campus resources, academic support, of course, but also internships and career readiness, financial wellness, and even health and basic needs. So that the advisor is busy with a lot of different aspects of a student's life. But more than that, many advisors in colleges around the country have 1,000 students that they need to support. So they have a lot of students to understand, a lot of challenges to face. And there's the possibility for us to help them with greater data accessibility. So if you look at the history of students in higher education, it's always been the case that people start but don't finish. But I think it's surprising for many of us that as recently as 2 years ago, 41% of students across the US stopped before finishing the degree they came to the university to achieve. So we need to open the opportunity for more information to be put at the hands of the faculty and staff, advisors, and others that will support students through to success in their future career. So the problem we're going to try to solve today is assume that the CEO of the education technology firm that we work for has asked us to form a task force. The task force should be comprised of internal staff, but also people from our leading institutions, our leading customer institutions, who will co-innovate with us. And together, we will look for a solution for how we bring more information to bear for the advisor so they can create tailored interactions for students, really personalized to that particular person in front of them. Now, before we look at how Unified Studio helps us solve this problem, let's talk about how we would usually approach a problem like this. Well, the task force, although it would involve members from the technology teams, would much more likely involve mission-focused areas of the institution. And that would begin with exploratory analysis to understand the problem. Understanding sort of like current performance indicators of who's completing and who's not completing their program of study would probably be drawn from the data warehouse. But more information would be needed. So other systems, probably managed by the IT department, would need to be brought into that exploratory analysis. But so would other information the task force would gather for themselves, things like survey results and other findings that they have. Out of all of that information, they would seek to produce some preliminary findings of what they think the causes are. And they would bring that information across to leaders and other stakeholders in the institution to share out their findings. If what they think could solve the problem is accepted, then begins the process of converting their activity into more of a production solution. So the spreadsheets and documents that they might have gathered and the other information from additional applications and their exploratory analysis becomes ETL and production data prep. And their preliminary findings become production insights deployed through dashboards to a larger audience or through APIs out to applications that can make use of them. So we've transitioned from a team primarily composed of mission area and administrative folks into a team that's more driven by developers. But what we see is that data journeys like this involve a lot of roles. And whereas a handful of years ago, it might have been primarily business analysts and data analysts that would work together to solve a problem like this. More and more, we have data scientists and machine learning engineers. We have data engineers and generative AI and prompt developers as well. And then subject matter experts and leaders to give guidance. This overall team, though, really falls into two broad categories. There's those who determine where data is stored, how do you go access it, how it can and when it must be moved in order for it to support the task force analysis, and then how the data is secured. So all the sort of technical aspects of the solution. And then there's others who are going to determine how is the data properly interpreted, what's its appropriate usage, and how can privacy be assured. And we put these two categories together around Unified Studio to give them a place to work that's collaborative, where they can share ideas, effectively work together and speed their progress. So as illustrated here, and Abhilash will show you in the demo, SageMaker Unified Studio includes a collection of tools to find and use data in a variety of ways. There's a catalog that helps everyone find and understand the data that's available. And there are tools for machine learning, artificial intelligence, generative AI, and SQL analytics. So teams can use the tools that they're familiar with. And governance is built in. In the Unified Studio, the work is organized along projects. And projects are comprised of data that the project has access to, compute resources like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and SQL analytics tools, the members of the project team who are allowed to have access and who have responsibility for the work, and finally a project catalog that they use to organize the assets they create and even to share those with others that might want to use them. The Unified Studio makes use of natural language as much as possible to support effective work by all the team members. So you can use natural language queries to find data in the catalog. You can use natural language queries to find data in the databases itself by converting natural language into SQL that can be executed with a click. And you can even use natural language to create data curation or ETL flows. And finally, the catalog is useful both to discover the information, but also to surface the data quality aspects and data lineage of the information in the catalog, as well as to govern access. So teams can use subscription requests to request access to the data that they think will be useful, and data stewards can review and approve those requests to automatically provision access for the project teams that want to make use of them. So before we jump into the demo, let me give you a little bit of a landscape of the solution that Abhilash will walk you through. He's created a solution that combines two primary systems, the student information system and the learning management system. Now, the student information system, which is where outcomes for students and courses would come from, I find is often already well organized in the data warehouse or reporting environment that the customers I work with have. So it's likely that we can draw the information that's necessary for this project from that data warehouse and bring it into Studio for its use. But the learning management system is typically not in the data warehouse and needs to be accessed by an API. So data from those two systems will be incorporated into the SageMaker Lakehouse, as illustrated in the middle, and provided to the project team in the context of a project within SageMaker Unified Studio. Now, if that data is available, one team can create a data product using machine learning and other techniques, and then a second team can use that data product to build tailored recommendations for students that can be handed to advisors for their use. And with that, let me hand this off to Abhilash to show us the solution in action.
Thank you so much, Craig. Hope you can see my screen. All right, let's get to the demo. Before I go into the hands-on demo, a quick setup of the demo. And in the rest of the demo, we are going to switch hats between different personas. And as you can see, for the demo use case, we have 3 people involved. And first being Sarah, who's a student counselor. Her focus is to ensure why there is decline in student grades across different semesters across for multiple years. And she wants to laser focus on how to improve student experience and engagement and build something that's relevant to their engagement so that their grades can be improved. And for that, there are two more people on the team, one being Samantha, who's a data engineer and analyst, whose job is to connect all of the data into one central location and be wherever the data is, give a central platform and ability for consumer applications and projects to come and access the data. In this case, Javier. Javier is again a data scientist whose goal is to build get access to the right data set first and then build a model that identifies students at risk of stopping out or not making good grades by going deep into various features and various usage patterns of LMS and how they engage with the course curriculum throughout the semester. And once he has that model, he's then going to put a generative AI based application for Sarah to come and consume, where she can run these prompts that are generated by Javier and team and get a tailored student intervention plan as a response, and then go work with that individual students at their pace. So that's the demo setup. And let me quickly pivot to the demo itself. As you can see, pre-recorded this so that I can time bound it within the time allocated. Um, so first thing, as you can see, I have a Mozilla Firefox window where I've logged in as Samantha, and I'm on the SageMaker Unified Studio. And on the second window, I've logged in as Javier, as you can see on the top. And again, with Javier as being data scientist, I've logged into the SageMaker Unified Studio as well. And once you log in, this is how a home page would look like in SageMaker Unified Studio. Let's first switch to Samantha's role, because that's where the heavy lifting of getting data accessible from machine learning is done. So I'm on Samantha's login. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to explore what is this platform, how it works. Right, as you can see, this SageMaker Unified Studio is a central platform for all of your data and AI use cases. It gives you that off console experience. You're not logged into AWS console, you have a different console application. So once you log in, this is how the homepage would look like. You have a Discover section where you can browse through business catalog, and then you can have that central catalog for all of your data assets and machine learning assets that are being developed and shared across the organization. And then there is a generative AI platform, a playground, where non-technical users like Sarah, in this case, a student counselor or a business analyst, can come and play with the LLM models. And then people like Javier, who are deep in ML and data science, they can build generative AI assets and applications for all of the organization to consume. And if you scroll a little bit down, as you can see, there are build section where I could do SQL analytics, data processing, ML analytics, or build generative AI platforms itself. Or I can just go and look at how-to videos or help documentation to get familiar with the platform itself. And not to forget, all of SageMaker Unified Studio is powered by Amazon Q. If you're hearing Q for the first time, it's a generative AI assistant. We are going to leverage Q in different parts of the demo as well to showcase how Q can also switch hats and help us with the different context in different situations. So this is a high-level introduction about the platform itself. As you can see, you could use your SSO credentials, like I said, to join. And once you log in on the ribbon menu, as you can see, there are different options that you can try. For what I'm going to do is I'm going to open Q, and I'm going to ask Samantha. I don't know what's in there. I'm going to ask, show me student information, and run this query. Now Q is playing a role of a data steward, and helping me perform data discoveries. Q is going and tapping all the projects that are registered within SageMaker Unified Studio, all the assets, and is giving me a list of assets that are relevant to the search query I gave. Give me a list of assets. It could be a product, it could be a table, it could be a model, it could be anything. And I'm clicking on one of the tables, student LMS table, basically reading at the summary that's being generated by the generative AI assistant again. It gives me summary use case. It gives me more detailed business enriched metadata about the table and columns about it. And I can see if these are the right columns. I'm interested in building something for my machine learning team here. And I can also go deep into the business metadata itself and see what could be the right use case for this specific situation, and what's the metadata form that's attached. Is it a public asset? Is it a confidential asset? Can I get access to this, etc., etc.? All those additional metadata can be appended, and you could also have your own glossary terms, just FYI. And then once I think like, okay, I have enough assets, I go to build again and I'll click on query editor. This will switch. I'm still in the SageMaker Unified Studio, as you can see. This will switch me into the SQL editor. And now I can see list of the tables, all of the tables that I can access through the SageMaker Unified Studio itself. And each of those tables can be coming from wide variety of sources. And remember about Q. I'm going to ask Q itself. Let's see. Let's ask as Samantha. Our goal is to give the right assets to machine learning team, right? Maybe I'll ask, show me the courses, like which courses are having more than one attempt to pass. Maybe this will help me understand to focus first on why this specific course module is tough on LMS or somewhere. Maybe the course curriculum is not written well, or maybe students did not navigate it well, or maybe students subscribe to a wrong course based on their history of education. But whatever it is, I've asked a question in natural language, and my buddy Amazon Q, a generative AI assistant here, gives me a response. I can regenerate it if I'm not happy. I can copy it, or I can just say add it to the query book and let's run this and see what happens. So when I run this query, it gives me the top course with maximum number of attempts to pass. And okay, this is great. And the good part with Q in this case is it is conversational. It remembers what it has responded just in a bit. Now I'm giving a little more different prompt, but I'm asking Q to, can you change your query to show me top 3 courses that are troublesome? And it knows what it has generated in the previous response. It's context aware, and it's going to update that SQL and give me another SQL that will give me more courses. I'm expecting 3 more courses in this case, because I explicitly asked for 3 courses that are having trouble navigating for as a student. So now I should have more courses and see, okay, as you can see, there are 3 courses which pretty much have the same number of maximum attempts, which means there are some good amount of courses that are taking some good time or giving tough time for the students to navigate. And this gives me some understanding on like, okay, there is a serious problem that's driven by data that students are struggling with. And then my next step is, this is like more like exploratory analytics, right? And I want to go a step deeper as a data engineer. I want to build something. I want to connect to all these different assets coming from LMS and SIS, and I want to build a data set that's really covers a lot of metrics, gives me a lot of metrics. I can do this again using Visual Editor, Jupyter Lab, or data processing job within the SageMaker Unified Studio. For time being, let me quickly show you how that is done using Visual Editor. You go to Visual Editor, you click on Create Visual ETL Flow, and once you click on that, it will give you a rich canvas. As you can see, canvas consists of multiple things. On the center of the canvas, as you can see, my generative AI assistant Amazon Q is there, and on the left-hand side, I have different things I can navigate to: sources, targets, and transformations. There are a rich set of transformations. I could drag and drop, or I could give a prompt for the demo. I've decided I'll show you how you could give a prompt and how you can translate your prompt to a ETL graph. So as you can see, this is a pretty rich prompt. I'm asking it to create a flow that connects to catalog on student assessment and and assessment tables in a specific database, and join it on a specific ID, calculate weighted average grades, and write the results as a Parquet file on S3. That's the prompt, and I've just switched the database because I feel this is the right database here. And when I submit this prompt, right, behind the scene, when I hit submit, Amazon Q is taking care of translating this prompt and going through the different data sources that are registered in SageMaker Unified Studio, making sure all these prompts are converted into respective data sources and a graph is built for me. As you can see, I have two tables, student assessment and assessment. In this case, they're joined, they're aggregated, and result is written to a target. But in ETL world, it's quite common that I might have a more enriched ask, or I might want to change the prompt, the graph itself. I could go manually edit, or I could just again tell. In this case, I'm for an existing graph, I'm again asking Q like, hey Q, can you go and add a filter and put it after join, and this filter should filter students whose grades are greater than 40. Let's see if that filter has come in right or not. As you can see, if I select filter first, it did put it after the join, and it did put the filter condition grade greater than 40. That's exactly what I was expecting. So this is one way of doing, and then I'm going to show you a different way. So Jupyter Lab is another way. In this case, the second way, this is where I've actually built the more consumption ready table, because Jupyter Lab I picked just for personal choice. It gives me a easy way to run each cell at a time and show everything in an interactive fashion. In this particular notebook, it joins multiple tables. As you can see, this is how I went from build to Jupyter Lab, just FYI, if I went too fast. This particular notebook, when I'm talking about it, it does a lot of things. It joins multiple tables. It filters student records on specific data. It calculates weighted average grade. It calculates pass rate. It calculates exam scores. It calculates student engagement with LMS, like number of clicks they have done, analyzing their click stream, time spent on LMS, which courses did they navigate more versus less, all of that. So I'm not going to go through every single line of code, but as you can see, behind the scene, I'm using PySpark to process this logic. I can do an interactive fashion development, and guess what? I could bring up Q again here if I need it, and ask Q to help me with any code debug or documentation, etc. But this is the final asset that you can see. As part of this specific step, we created an asset which combines multiple table and generates result in a specific fashion. Sorry about that. It generates the result and it aggregates data at multiple levels for me. And then once I have the data, it's a new table added to the project, right? And I can make the table accessible for consumers by running a crawler. As you can see, I go to that specific data source, I hit run on that source, it brings any new assets added into the project. In our case, the new asset that we added is student performance metrics, and the table is brought in. As you can see, it auto-generated the summary for me, use case, where this specific asset can be used. And as a matter of fact, the use case has a line that says, this can be used for student prediction. And I can look at the schema, I can create asset filters so that when someone comes in for request, I'm only giving access at a different level. And once I have this asset added into the asset catalog, what I can do is I can create products. So in SageMaker catalog world, I've created a project, student engagement already, but the way you have to read is to a product is like, assume you have multiple consumers who wants to access data, right? And if you know a particular team who wants to get access to specific data sets, as a data producer, I can create a bundle of assets. As you can see here, I'm creating a bundle of assets. In this case, I've bundled 5 assets into a product called a student engagement product, and I published that product. And as a consumer, when I want to go and subscribe to a specific product, I can just go and subscribe to a product, and it gives me access for everything behind the scene. It could be a table, it could be a file, it could be a model, all of it. The bundle itself is logically contained. It's like a logical container, and that gives me access to all of it in one single shot. That makes my life as a consumer, when I switch to consumer hat, easy, and also for producer for easy management. So now that this asset is published, Samantha's role is kind of done, and now Javier comes in as a machine learning engineer. Just like how Samantha started, Javier comes with his own project. In this case, Student ML is the project that Javier is coming with. And the first thing Javier is going to do is he's going to see what he can do with the data itself, and he doesn't know which tables are being created by the data engineering team, what assets are already being there in SageMaker Unified Studio. Just like Samantha, Javier is going to hover over to hover over to Amazon Q and find out what assets are right assets for him. Let's see, what. Let's try to send a query and see, as Javier, identify which students are there. All I'm interested in is student performance assets. Maybe I'll ask, show me student performance assets, and run this query and see what Q does for me. Now Q, just like how it helped Samantha, now it's taking this question from Javier and listing all the assets that are relevant to student performance that are being built by data engineering team. I'm clicking on any random asset, and this is a student assessment table. I can see how this asset is built. I'm clicking on another asset. This is assessment table. I can see, okay, this is the information. Okay, this is student performance metrics. This sounds much closer to what I'm looking at, and I can look at the business metadata schema, or I can look at the lineage. And lineage really helps in the data and AI world to identify for a specific asset. I'm looking at how that asset is actually even derived. So in this case, if you remember, Samantha built this student performance metrics table using a Spark job. And it's the same thing Javier can visualize now. Javier opened up the base table, student performance metrics, and he can see this is being built by the combination of 4 tables coming from SIS and LMS data stores. And he can see the data is being coming from a Spark job. He's opening up a point in time lineage for the table to see for the latest job execution, how the table is formed, what columns are involved, what tables are involved, what logic is written. And this, as a data scientist or a data consumer who's performing data discovery, it gives me immense confidence on, like, okay, this seems to be right assets, that right asset that's being built with the combination of right tables, right columns, from right sources. Maybe I'll begin here and I'll see what I can do with respect to this. So for me to consume this asset, I'm going to request my producer, in this case Samantha's team, to share me access. So I'm coming from Student ML project, and I'm going to send a comment as part of my request to Samantha that I need access to this asset because I'm building a student at risk model for the institution. And I'm going to send request. The moment he hits request here, I'm logged in as Javier, and the request is sent. I'm going to quickly pivot as Samantha. I'm switched to Samantha's login, if you can see. And then I'm going to go to subscription request and see if there is any incoming subscription request for me. There'll be a notification sent, but in real time for the demo, I quickly went to the subscription request. I looked at the request. I can give full access to the asset, or I can give a row level, column level, put a column level filter and give only access to specific rows or specific columns for Javier. For machine learning use case, I'm giving all access for the demo purpose, and I'm gonna type in a comment. For now, for time being, I'm typing approved for student engagement use case, and I'm gonna hit approve. And by the time I hit approve, and in a few seconds, this asset will be readily accessible for Javier and team. So I'm switching to Javier again, and I'm going to assets to verify if I got access to that asset. If I go to subscribed, I can see that asset is being added into my project. And meanwhile, I can open that assets and see if my subscription is approved. It's being added. I can look at the schema. I can look at the lineage, just like how I discovered. I can look at the metadata and any additional tags or notes that the producer has put in for me while I'm consuming the asset. Okay, the asset is adding. It takes a second. I can refresh the page and see if it is added. It should be added in a minute. Awesome. Asset is added. I can see it. Yep. Then now we are ready to consume the asset. The first thing I can do is I can go to the data section under the lake house within this project. I can see this, I should be able to see the specific table. I can do a quick preview of the data to verify if this is the right asset. I could do preliminary exploratory analytics on this table and see if I need to do more. But looking at the initial metrics, this seems to be quite a good aggregated data set for me. I can begin my building a model on top of this. The first thing, coming from a machine learning background, I'll be so used to working on notebooks and Python modules. So for the demo, I built a model that does a few things. It's going to identify which features has more weightage and all. It also installs necessary libraries. In this case, I've installed SageMaker library and Oboto 3, and I'm going to perform a bunch of SageMaker calls and Boto 3 calls, perform data exploration, identify which features has more weightage, so that it makes it easy for me to pick right features for building the model. And I can also do more deeper visual style analysis, like show me value distribution, which value has more weightage versus which field has more weightage versus less. And then I can split the data and perform training and inferences, all of that. So in this case, as you can see, I've built a model using random cut forest standard model. And I can see relatively there are 15%, 134 students who are at risk. And the model tagged 134 students, and let's work on building a tailored student intervention plan for these 134 students. I can do more analysis, like a pictorial analysis to identify how the weightage and distribution is done. And I can also, based on the student data set that are tagged, I can build dynamic prompts. For example, if a student is tagged with feature A, B, and Z, write a prompt like this. If a student is tagged with feature A, Z, and P, build a different prompt. So I can do the dynamic prompting as well here. And for the demo, what I've done is I've taken a few students and generated dynamic prompt for a specific student, student 001. As you can see, this is the profile for student 001, and based on that, I've prepared some dynamic prompts. And all this is data. This JSON string that you're seeing is real data for a specific student and their current situation. So for that student, I have a prompt. I'm going to copy this prompt in a second and give it to Sarah, who's our student counselor, non-technical. And assuming, I know I'm still in Javier's login, but assume for a few seconds, I'm playing Sarah's role. I got this prompt from Javier. All I can do is I can log in just like how Javier and Samantha has logged in. I can go to chat prompt. I can pick the model that I have access to. In this case, we are going to pick Nova Pro to actually paste the prompts received from machine learning and Gen AI team and get the tailored student intervention plan. As you can see, this reads the data. This prompt is built based on the actual features that are tagged for the student at risk, student 001. And it has a tailored prompt as tied to it as well. So based on that, when you run this prompt on the model playground, it gives you a very tailored intervention plan for student 1. In this case, it has a plan for Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It also sends motivational messages, gives messages for student counselor to send now and then to encourage student, tell them they're not alone in this journey and they got help. I can play with more prompts. I have another prompt, a different type, and this is a different instructor-based prompt. This generates a different version of the response. So taking a step back, as Sarah, I have different flavors of prompt I can play with first and to see which way of writing prompt is it's giving me the better response. And I can try different things on Model Playground, which is a cool place within the SageMaker Unified Studio. Again, I didn't switch any comms to a different console. And on this, as you can see, you can create a chat agent itself. You can build an application and expose that end user application sort of end user ready. In this case, something that Sarah can consume without having to cherry picking model, all of that. So you could actually build an agent and give it back to Sarah, where she can come and take advantage of that agent. Or you can build that agent, share it with other teams as well. So that other teams who are probably doing something similar, they just get the similar experience as well. So now these prompts are being built and Sarah is on cruise mode working with every individual student. You might have a question like, let's say, okay, I'm playing Sarah's role now. I might have a question like, okay, I'm building these tailored student intervention plans, but how can I make sure these plans are accurate, or how can I make sure these plans are going through some sort of quality check, so that I can trust this, or I can have more confidence than what I have now. So that is a very good ask, and that's where Javier can help again. I'm switching hat. I'm putting my Javier's hat again. And as Javier, as a Gen AI specialist in the institution, what I can do is I can build model evaluation built into the platform again. That's what I'm trying to show here. I built a model evaluation here, and the approach. There's several approaches in the industry. The approach that I've taken is LLM as judge. So basically, whatever the responses that are generated by Nova, I'm going to use a different model here to evaluate that response. I'm going to show you how standard evaluation looks like, and I'm also going to show you how more a deep dive with thinking based evaluation also will look like, which gives you more better response on like whatever the LLM as judge has done for you. It will also tell you why it has picked that specific option or specific rating, and why it has to do that. So throughout this notebook, as you can see, I've again imported different libraries. I'm using Claude Sonnet 3.7 to run model evaluation. I'm going to show it in two flavors. One is the standard evaluation, where this tells me, okay, I'm asking Claude Sonnet to help me score this model in different segments. Now, what is the quality score, success score, and overall evaluation score, etc. And this is more like the standard evaluation. And when you run more thinking based evaluation, it generates more better response for the team. Now it tells me overall data score, overall model score, is explainability, clarity, actionability, clarity, completeness, relevance, bias. It talks about all 5-6 parameters that I asked it to evaluate, and it also explain me where it's doing good and where it can be done better, and what's the scope for improvement in this prompt, or the responses. And this gives me much more clarity and confidence on how can I make sure I am delivering better product to Sarah and team going forward. And even for Sarah, it gives her more confidence, like, okay, the prompts are getting improved over a period of time, and I can truly rely on that, and I make sure I'm taking best advantage of the technology out there, and making sure we all as a group are helping students at risk to get better grades and get better results throughout their journey in terms of courses, and make better scores. That's high level about the demo. And this is the workshop. Just FYI, if you have not taken a copy of it, please take a screenshot of this. Everything that I've shown you, we do have available as a workshop for you to come and try on an empty AWS account. We are happy to run that workshop with you and your organization. Please, and I'll give it a few seconds for you to capture this QR code. Thank you. And then we strongly encourage you to request you to type in the survey, and this really helps us to come back with even much better experience for upcoming sessions.
Yeah, let's take a few questions, Karg and Abhilash.
Sure.
If a customer who want to get started with this workshop, what is the best practices you suggest?
Yeah, so if you have an AWS account manager tied up for your account, please feel free to reach out to them and tell them you heard about this workshop, and we are going to host that workshop for you. We are going to bring those AWS burner accounts so that all we request from you is time commitment, probably 2.5 hours to 4 hours. And we are going to get you hands-on and get your hands dirty with this workshop, and you can build it from the scratch.
Okay. Thank you, Ablas. Craig, I have a question to you. Let's say customers, if their whole data is in on-prem, how they can take advantage of this new solution?
So the simplest way is to stand up an AWS working environment, AWS account if you don't have one, and configure the Unified Studio environment that you saw Abhilash walk you through. And then we have a variety of services of different types that make it easy in most cases with just configuration and not coding to move copies of the data that you need to analyze into that environment. So if it's a database or if it's an API, or if it's different sources, you can use a variety of AWS services to make that easy to do. And there again, like Abhilash mentioned, an AWS account manager responsible to support you and your organization could help you know which services to use and connect you with a solutions architect to support you.
Thank you, Craig. Is Amazon SageMaker Studio you talked about, right, during your solution? Let's say customers are using maybe corporate credential. Many of customers are using like identity providers like Okta or Ping Identity or maybe Microsoft Intra. Can they use these existing credentials with the SageMaker Unified Studio?
SageMaker Unified Studio is integrated with SSO, and we currently support IDC. If there is a specific identity that you want to bring in, please contact us and we'll help you navigate and bring you up to speed.
Okay, thank you. We have some time, so please post questions in the chat.
Yeah, feel free to ask questions. Comment.
There are a few questions. Let's see. So, Craig, can you talk about what is the key benefits of using this approach as compared to using the existing? For say, customers are already build their data lakes and by leveraging existing AWS services. What is the advantage of using SageMaker Unified Studio here?
The primary benefit that I see is that it allows for the various staff members that are on the team to contribute their work to one environment, as opposed to working sort of like in a pipeline. In my experience supporting data warehousing and data science work for the past 25 years, it used to be very collaborative, sitting together, working on a problem. And over time, it became sort of like an engineering effort where different people would take on different responsibilities through the life of a project, especially true with a data warehousing project. And what I like about Unified Studio is, like Abhilash illustrated, there's a lot of different people coming at the same data with different sort of mental models of how they think about the problem and how they think about using data. And they can jump in, they can do their work. Everyone can see the outcome from that work and take a next step. So rather than being sequential, it can be very collaborative and interactive. It doesn't change the fact that you have a data lake. It's something that you use over top of the data lake that you already invested in as a collection of tools. So it's not a new data lake, it's a collection of tools over top of that data that you've already gathered together.
Okay. Thank you, Craig. Let's say, do you have any tips like a customer who are just starting to use Amazon SageMaker Unified Studio?
My advice to customers who are getting started is always to think about a real problem, because real problems motivate people to work together, whereas sort of make work doesn't. So pick a problem that's real. Pick a problem that uses some data that you're familiar with, along with some data that you're not familiar with. So in our example, the student information system plus the LMS, it's very common for the SIS to be well understood, but for the learning management system data to be less well understood. So that gives the technical team as well as the folks in the business to work together on something that allows them to learn and do something new. But it builds on some things that they already know. And then I think it's always ideal that collective partnership between a couple of different departments potentially, or different people on different teams, delivers to a third, because then there's sort of like this very natural, like we're working together to solve a problem for somebody else, and that creates a strong sort of organizational benefit as well. And at the end, you pick something small, you do it, you see what worked, and then you come back and you iterate. So you don't try to bring in all the data, and all the teams to Unified Studio in one big project. You bring it on a little at a time. That's the start small, and you iterate fast to grow it as you have success.
Thank you so much, Craig. So what the thing, right? You talked about, Abhilash mentioned there are multiple personas. They can collaborate each other to derive a business solution in a accelerated manner. So based on the demo, it looks like it comes with tools, right, and as well as data, right? You saw, I mean, Abhilash shown some notebook where they can see the data and then run the queries. What about the tools, right? It comes with the tools, and also you shown some tools. What about the compute? Let's say if they wanted to add an additional compute, can they add the compute on fly, or how it works?
They could add compute on the fly. They could add both SQL compute and Spark-based compute. They could add SageMaker Hyperpod related compute for model inferences. There are a lot of compute choices that we provide on SageMaker Unified Studio that you can take advantage of.
Oh, okay. Correct. This question to you, right? There is a lot of confusion about old SageMaker versus next generation of Amazon SageMaker. Can you elaborate a little bit more about it?
Certainly. So the SageMaker prior to SageMaker Unified Studio is now called SageMaker AI, and that is a collection of machine learning and artificial intelligence tools that have been around for a number of years and are quite solid, and sort of support the work of many people for many years now. The Unified Studio is largely sort of like a layer on top of that to combine the business cataloging work that we were doing in the Data Zone service prior to this. And then the continuation of the idea that Data Zone had begun, which was work should be project-based, and that you should be able to kind of establish the infrastructure that you need for a project, potentially short-lived, transient infrastructure, and then take it down when the project is done. So combining all those things together is what makes SageMaker Unified Studio, is that combination, and pulling in some of the capabilities that had been previously in AWS Glue, so data quality and lineage. So the difference primarily is that Unified Studio is sort of this overarching workflow environment, and the combination of all these tools that previously had been independent. And SageMaker AI is a collection of those tools that are part of the solution.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig. Abhilash, you shown the demo, right? Let's say if customer wanted to use this as a POC, the solution link which you are showing, right? Can they deploy the solution in their own account so that they can play around it?
Yes, absolutely, they can deploy, but please remember there is a tiny bit of cost associated with any workshop you're trying to deploy on your own account. Make sure you're aware of those resources that are being created, and you probably kill them after your demo is done.
Okay. So there is a way where you can run this workshop in our own AWS account and then see if everything is working together. And then, as Abhilash mentioned, you might need to basically turn off all the AWS resources. Alternate option could be working with our account team, AWS account manager or AWS solution architect, where they can run an immersion day kind of a thing or a workshop for you. They can bring in like a AWS bond accounts. That means like they will be valid for a certain amount of time, like 24 hours to 36 hours, where you can play with the solution and see if it is how it is. You can make your hands dirty, and then you can also play around with some of the test data, and then see how the results are achieving. If that is good, then you can think about accelerating the POC by using this solution.
Correct.
Any last? We are at the time. There are 2 minutes to left, Craig. Right? Anything you want to add? Like any best practices or anything you want? There could be two personas, right? One is one customer could be no cloud presence, all right, and another you more talked about like the customers who has been using AWS. Let's say if customer not using AWS, right? How you provide, like how you go about it, get started with SMSUS.
I think if you're entirely new to AWS, it's good to get sort of like a foundational understanding of how AWS works and how the data in the cloud works. And your account team can certainly support you with that. And then jumping into a product like this in sort of like the workshop mode, like Avlash described, where your account team gives you temporary accounts so you can get hands-on. That allows you to figure out exactly how you want to use it. And that drives like, what are the next steps that you would need to take as a new customer to establish the environment in which you work? Because there are some key best practices for security and that need to be in place before you work with real data. So it's good to learn the tools, decide how you want to use it, and then lay those security controls in place as you build your environment.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you all for joining our session. Please take a moment and help us filling the survey. That way, we know what to improve based on your feedback. We always want to improve, and we always wanted to learn from you whether these sessions are helpful. And based on your feedback, we'll incorporate those feedbacks into our upcoming sessions. Thank you all for our time. Again, we'll keep this session survey link for some time so that we can gather some more session. We are at the time. Thank you all once again for attending this session.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.